So of course you have to be exceptionally good at that one thing that your job requires you to do, but Google, as being a large company, they also have to really be careful about who they hire in terms of cultural fit, and they even have a term for this. It's called Googleyness, and what happens here is that they will have to ask you multiple questions and even multiple follow-up questions in order to better assess your personality and assess you as a fit there. And the first part, and one of the most important parts of this, is to test your cognitive abilities. And this essentially, for instance, they will ask you questions such as, tell me about the time that you solve a tough problem. How did you solve it? Walk me through the specific steps, and even dive deeper into details, depending on what your answers are there. Now, how do you prepare for these things? And my proposed approach here is to use a two-step process. The first step would be to think of the main highlight of your career, or if you don't have a career, just think of the main highlight in your life, professionally speaking. And really take the time to write down everything you remember about it. And don't worry if it takes 1 hour. The key here is to be as detailed as possible and to keep it in a narrative structure. Now, once you're done writing down the main story, now try to make a summary of this, still in a narrative format, and try to structure it in 4 parts here. For the first part, try to describe the situation that happened. Then second, try to describe the tasks that were required to get done, and these two can actually be combined together in some cases. Then the third one is what are the actions that you took with respect to the before mentioned. And finally, talk about the results that were in that scenario. And by structuring this summary into 4 parts, you do what's called to answer, to narrate a story using the star format. So this is really what the star format is all about. Now, keep in mind some keywords and some ideas that I referenced when I talked in the previous section about Google's 10 things. For example, if you coded some website, be sure to highlight speed. Then if you worked on a team, be sure to highlight that there was communication going on and that you valued differences of opinion. Maybe you were involved in a commercial project before, in which scenario a good pitch would be to highlight your motivation coming from a sense of a higher purpose. Also, if you worked on something, see if any of these keywords are representative. Passionate people from diverse backgrounds with creative approaches to work, play and life. And finally, if you worked on some project from someone else, or if you had a boss, be sure to mention how you went above and beyond to reach your goal, show customer obsession and thirst for excellence. Alright, so I believe these are the main highlights as to what's really important when building your first story. Now, once we have that first story, try to do, let's say, 4 more such stories with another time the main highlights in your career, or pretty much the main highlights in your life if your career is not there yet. And if you're looking for examples of what types of stories, if you're looking for ideas that will help you to bring back some memories here, just take these behavioral questions as examples. So, for example, you could build a story about the time that you had to deal with ambiguity, or talk about the time when you had to deal with a major failure, and so on. So once you're done writing down your main stories, the next part is to actually prepare to answer some of the most common behavioral questions, and you should just pick the 20 most common of them. Here are some examples, and just answer them. And one strategy here is not just to provide one answer, but try to provide 3 answers here, because the idea during the interview is to impress, to make a good impression, and win some buy-in from the main stakeholders of that recruitment process. And By the way, this is advice from Google itself. Also, writing down those answers will help them stick better in your memory. So there you go. This is I believe the main preparation that you should perform with respect to the behavioral part of the interview, and I believe this will also help you throughout the interviews at Google and pretty much any company in general. And finally, remember at the beginning of the video I said that there are two main things that Google looks for in a recruit, and aside from the technical abilities, right? The first one was the cognitive abilities, and the second is leadership. And the reason why I'm talking about leadership here is because I observed that throughout the years, various HR leaders at Google talking about emergent leadership, and this basically means that you as a leader should show your ability to first step in when there's a need for you to do so, but not only that, but also step out when you're no longer required for something. So it would be great if you could also embed this behavior maybe to one of your prepared stories.